So this book just happens to call it the addition method, but it's the same thing. So the name doesn't mean anything. Substitution is just known as substitution. Pretty important. And it says identify the systems with no solutions and the systems with infinitely many solutions, or find the solution. And we'll talk about how to write that set notation. So when I look at this system of equations, this is a particular system I would probably tell you to solve by substitution. The method of substitution means that we take one equation, we solve it for a variable, and we substitute it into the second equation. This is probably something you are familiar with. It may have been a while since you did it, but most students are like, oh, I remember this, and you get real excited because it's something you remember, and makes me happy. So I'm going to go through these, like I said, and tell you which method I think is the better method, unless you have a particular preference. So as I said, this equation, I'm going to substitute into my second equation. So you see where I have x is equal to 4 minus y. Well, this I'm going to substitute into this equation. So my second equation, I'm now going to write as 3 times, and in place of this x, I'm going to drop in 4 minus y. And then I'm going to continue with my equation, minus 2y is equal to negative 3. So literally, I'm substituting this x as 4 minus y into this equation, replacing x. And now I'm going to clean this up. This is going to be 12 minus 3y minus 2y is equal to negative 3. Simplifying as I solve. We've talked about solving equations before. This is nothing new. 12 minus 5y is equal to negative 3. Subtracting 12 from both sides, negative 5y is equal to negative 15. Dividing both sides by negative 5, I get y is equal to 3. Aha! I got y equals to a number. Therefore, my system has a solution. Now, remember that your ordered pair is just that. It's in order, x and then y. So I have actually found the second part of my solution. So we're going to come over here to the side and say, okay, solution. Is the ordered pair something, comma 3? Well, what is that something? I'm going to go back up here to the x, and I'm going to say, all right, x is going to be equal to 4 minus y, and my y value is 3. And so therefore, I'm going to find that x is equal to 1. So there's my solution. If you want to check it, plug it back in. 1 in for x, 3 in for y, and you will get negative 3. You better get it up here too. But anyway, so this is my solution. Okay. Questions? Hopefully this looks at least vaguely familiar, right? All right, let's look at number 4. A lot of people prefer substitution over the addition method. Like I said, it's really kind of a personal preference. I'm going to show you how to use substitution. Oh, we're going to take a poll real quick. This way also I make sure you're all like alive and awake. You can either chat to me privately or you can chat to everybody, but while I'm getting ready to set this up, if you remember this, okay, if you remember solving a system of equations, I want you to tell me if you have a preference for substitution or addition or no preference. So just a quick little poll, not really a show of hands, but kind of a show of hands. So, and you can also say, don't remember it. That's allowed too. Look at you folks. There you go. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'm actually really impressed. The thing is, some of you have no preference because you don't remember this. It's okay. Wow, I'm not seeing anybody who prefers substitution. That actually kind of makes me happy. Well, they're winning prizes. Hey, I'm still looking. Yeah, I'm thinking I got a couple things. All right. Okay, so I am going to show you how to do this one with substitution, and then I will probably solve many of these by elimination because most of you have no preference, and I prefer elimination. So anyway, to solve this for substitution, and the reason that some people would do this is because there is a single y here. Because there's a single y, it does make it a little bit nicer for substitution. So the problem is that it's a negative y, so you just have to be careful here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation and I'm going to solve it for y. So I get negative y is equal to negative 2x plus 3. And then, like I said, it needs to be a positive y. So I'm going to take this a step further and say, well, positive y is equal to positive 2x minus 3. Okay? And this is what I'm going to use to substitute into my second equation. So my second equation is going to be negative 8x plus 3. And here's where I'm going to substitute my y in as 2x minus 3. And I did this because I want you to see I can either substitute for x or y depending upon which variable I solve for in the first equation is equal to negative 8. And in this first one, I solved the equation for x, so I substituted in with the y's. And this one, I solved the first equation for y, and so I substituted in to find an equation with x's, okay? So now as I clean this up, I have negative 8x plus 6x minus 9 is equal to negative 8. This is going to be negative 2x minus 9 is equal to negative 8. And this is going to be negative 2x is equal to 1. And x is going to be equal to negative 1/2. Again, I found a value for x, and so my solution has the first component of negative 1/2, and we can find the second component. We find the second component by taking this y equation and substituting in that negative 1/2. So 2 times negative 1/2 minus 3. And this is, that does not look like a 1/2. I'm sorry about that. Here it goes, that's much better. All right, so this then becomes negative 1 minus 3, which gives me a y value of negative 4. Okay. So the 2 times the negative 1/2 is just a negative 1. And so here is my solution. Again, I can go back and check it into the other equation if I want to. It's fine. You're going to get a 4 minus a 12, which is going to give me negative 8. Questions? Now, I'm going to tell you on the, on the homework, you're probably going to have to find both x and y. You're going to find the ordered pair. Some of the quiz questions are just going to ask you to find either the x or the y, not both pieces. So just pay attention to which one you find and which one it's asking for. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So now look at number 5 with me. It has an x plus 14y is equal to 20 and a negative x plus 14y is equal to 15. The first thing right off the bat I see is this positive x and negative x. When I see a positive and a negative of the same thing, I immediately personally think, oh, addition. Because what happens is with substitution, I'm solving for a variable so I can substitute it into the second equation. And notice, backtrack just a second, both of these equations that we solved only had one variable in them, and that was the point. So the purpose of addition or elimination is to be able to add my two equations together and get rid of a variable, okay? And so if I have exactly the same coefficient of x, but one's positive and one's negative, and I add them together, what happens is I get rid of my x's. And so that's why if I see something like this, I immediately think addition, elimination, linear combinations, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not going to do anything to these. I am simply going to add the two equations together. So I'm going to use the addition method here. And like I said, sometimes it's easier for one than it is the other. In this case, I add my x's together, I get 0 x's. I get 28y is equal to 35. Okay, divide both sides by 28. I get 35 divided by 28. And I get y is equal to 5/4. And I might be thinking, oh, now that -1/2 was a fraction, but it was kind of a nice fraction. 5/4 is not necessarily a nice fraction. So you have two choices. And I'm going to show you, I think this is the easier choice. And it's always an option. You can either take the 5/4 and substitute it in for y and then solve for x in either equation. I personally think you can go back to this original system of equations, solve it again, solving it for x, and therefore you have your x value. Okay, now you might say, how do I do that? Well, if you look at this original equation, I have a 14y and another 14y. So one option is to take the first equation, okay, and multiply it by a negative, giving me negative x minus 14y is equal to negative 20. Keep the second equation. So this is to find the x value. So I have negative x plus 14y is equal to 15. Do you see what I did here? Now I have the opposite signs but the same number on my y's. So now when I add them together, I eliminate the y's but not the x's. So I get negative 2x is equal to negative 5. And now if I divide both sides by negative 2, I get positive 5/2. And so now my solution is not negative, sorry, is positive 5/2, comma, 5/4. And this is my solution. Okay. Questions about what I did here? Kind of a little trick, but it works very nicely sometimes. Okay, let's move along. Number 6 is a little bit harder because if you notice on number 5, I had an x here and a negative x, a 14 and a 14. So I had the same coefficient, different signs or the same signs. This one, I don't have the same coefficient on either my x or my y. So I have to make some choices here. Anybody remember this and might have an idea of what I can do? There's actually several different things I can do. So I'm open to suggestions here. What might I do? I want to multiply one of the equations by something, at least one of the equations. I might multiply both of them, so that when I add them together, I get rid of one of my variables. Somebody make me a suggestion, because I know somebody out here recognizes this.
Can you multiply the top one by 3 and get it equal to 6, and then you can
Yes, exactly. So yeah, you're spot on. I can multiply the top one by, and I do want to use a positive 3, and I think that's actually what you said, Kaylin. The positive 3 is going to give me a negative 6 here and a positive 6 here. Yep, that is perfect. So I'm going to take the first equation and multiply it by a positive 3. All right. So I'm going to have 9x minus 6y is equal to a positive 60. Okay. And then my second equation, I'm not going to change at all. And that's going to be a 2x plus a 6y is equal to negative 38. All right. Now, if I had multiplied this first one, just backtrack for a second, because I had a couple of people tell me negative 3. If I multiplied this one by a negative 3, the only problem is that I have this positive 6y. And so then I would have to multiply this equation by a negative, so I had a positive and a negative. not because I have two different signs here, it just makes sense to multiply this one by the positive. So now I'm going to add these two equations together. I get rid of my y's. I get 11x is equal to, looks like 22. Oh, that's so nice. I get x is equal to positive 2. Okay? So my solution is going to be the ordered pair 2 comma something. So now, a little bit harder than the first couple of problems. I probably would not. You could go back and solve this for y by eliminating the x's, but it's a lot of extra steps in there. So to find y, okay, so to find y, I would take the 3x, the original problem, minus 2y is equal to 20, okay? So I would use this. I would substitute 2 in for x, so I have 3 times 2, all right? Minus 2y is equal to 20, and this is going to be 6 minus 2y is equal to 20, and negative 2y is going to be equal to 14, and dividing both sides by negative 2, I get y is equal to negative 7, and there is the second part of my solution. Okay. Again, I can check it back in the second equation, and I should then get negative 38. Questions? All right. Number 7. What could I multiply the first equation by to get rid of something? Or if somebody would really prefer me to use substitution, you can shout out substitution. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this first equation by, yes, I got an answer that I liked, positive 2, okay? Why positive 2? Because it gives me a 2x and then a negative 2x, okay? Multiplying by 1 doesn't change anything. Multiplying by 3 would be lovely, except that it won't do me any good, okay? So multiplying by positive 2 will give me that positive 2x so that I can add it to the negative 2x and everything disappears. So I have a positive 2x plus 2y is equal to 6, making sure you multiply all the way across. My second equation, I don't change it all. I just rewrite it. I like to write it so everything lines up just because, I don't know, I think it's prettier that way. Now, when I add my x's together, they go away. But notice what happens when I add my y's together. They go away also. I am left with 0. And on the right-hand side, I am left with 7. 0 is not equal to 7, okay? This is what we call a false statement. And with a false statement, this means that I have no solution, okay? What that means is that my two lines were actually parallel to each other, okay? You might see it written with the empty set. That's another option, but it is no solution. Questions? Questions? Okay. So false statement means no solutions. Got to remember that. It is not true. I have no solutions. Not true, no solutions. Okay. Let's look at number 8 down here. Number 8 is a little bit special in that it doesn't have any constants. I could move this back over there and have 8x plus y is equal to 0. That's okay also. 0 is fine to have in a problem. But because the second equation is actually solved for y, to me, this is a nice time to use substitution. So that's what I'm going to do. This one is a little bit different because the equation I'm substituting is the second one. And so that's one of the reasons I did this, to give you just a little bit of a different feel for this. So I'm going to take the fact that y is equal to negative 8x. and I'm going to substitute it into this equation, okay? So my first equation then is going to become 8x minus, and in place of y, I'm going to substitute negative 8x, and this is all going to be equal to negative 13. Okay. So cleaning this up, I have 8x plus 8x. If you're not careful, you're going to get a weird answer here. This is going to give me 16x is equal to negative 13. That's a little bitty negative 13. Sorry about that. I don't know why that happened. Negative 13. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 16, and I get negative 13 over 16. Okay. Now, this is the x component for my ordered pair, so negative 13/16. I need the y component. I do realize that's a messy fraction, but because y is just equal to something times x, I don't have to do any adding and subtracting. And so I would just leave this alone. So to find your y value, so y is equal to negative 8 times, and in place of x, I'm going to have negative 13 over 16. Okay. Simplifying this just a little bit, the negatives cancel out, become positive. 8 divides into 16 2 times, and so I end up with 13 over 2. And so that is my y component here. Okay. You can do more fancy footwork if you want to. You can use your calculator, you can however you want to multiply those fractions. But this is my final answer. Questions? All right. Number 9. I'm trying to give you lots of examples of these. I'm sorry, but I just think they're so important. So 8x plus 4y is equal to 20. 2x plus y is equal to 5. Okay. Anybody got a preference out there? I would either solve this one by substitution or by addition. I am open to suggestions. Somebody shout out what you'd rather shout out on chat or verbally. Which method? Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I figured. Okay, so let's use substitution for this one. Why substitution? Well, substitution because I've got this single y here, okay? And so what this means is that I can take this and solve for y. I get y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. If you were one of those people who was thinking elimination or addition, but you didn't say it to me, then solve this by addition. It's great. You're going to get the same answer. That's one of the things I love about this. I will forewarn you on your homework. It's going to say, solve this by this method. Solve this by this method. That's great. I don't care what method you solve it by. The only catch is that if you click that help me solve it button, it's going to solve it by the method it told you. But if you don't care, I don't care, right? As long as it's, I used to say in class, it's not the neighbor's paper method. So I'm going to say in here, as long as it's not the math way method, I'm good. You can solve it however you want to. Don't look it up. Yeah, I know. Math way, photo math. I know all those things. Okay. So y is equal to negative 2x plus 5. And so, yes. Okay. I thought somebody said something. So now I'm going to take this equation and it's going to be 8x plus 4 times, and I'm going to substitute in negative 2x plus 5 is equal to 20. And so I'm going to box this off so we don't get mixed up. So this is now going to become 8x minus 8x plus 20 is equal to 20. 8x minus 8x goes away. I have 20 equals 20. Guys, that is a true statement. And what a true statement means is that I have infinite solutions. Now, there are some problems that probably just simply say how many, do you have a solution, no solution, or infinite solutions? You pick infinite solutions, life is good. However, several of these want you to write what's called a general solution. And it's going to tell you to write that general solution either in terms of X or Y. So I'm going to show you in this one, we'll do another one in a minute where we write it in terms of the other one, but we're going to write a general solution in terms of X. And here's what it looks like. It's going to be X, comma, in place of Y, I am going to put negative 2x plus 5. And that's what a general solution looks like in terms of X. So in other words, both my X and my Y components have the variable X in there, okay? And I'll show you what one looks like in terms of Y in a minute. So it's going to ask you to do one or the other, so just be prepared. Questions on this? All right, let's do another one. Oh, these are so much fun. This one I'm not going to give you a choice on. I am going to solve this one by the addition method, and I'm going to multiply the second equation by positive 3, because that gives me a negative 3 and a positive 3. I personally like to eliminate the x's if I can, just because it just feels, I don't know, it just usually comes more naturally. That previous question, though, it was kind of nice because we already had one of those y's by itself. So it really doesn't matter which way you do this. So I'm going to just simply rewrite this one, negative 3x plus 6y is equal to 9. My second equation is going to become positive 3x minus 6y is equal to negative 9. Adding these two equations together, look what happens. I get 0 on this side. I get 0 here. I get 0 is equal to 0, right? Another way to say we have a true statement, okay? I got rid of everything. This just simply means my two lines are exactly the same. One of them is just disguised as the other one. So here we go. So this is a true statement, which means that I have infinite solutions. And this time, we're going to write our general solution in terms of y, okay? So that means that my equation, my solution, my ordered pair is going to have a y here. And then we're going to write x in terms of y. So I'm going to take this second equation just because it's the one that has a single x in it. And I'm going to say x minus 2y is equal to negative 3. So I'm going to add 2y to both sides. So I get x is equal to 2y minus 3. And so in place of the x component, I'm going to write 2y minus 3. And so this is my general solution solved in terms of y. Questions? All right. So the next several problems are going to be our applications. The nice thing about applications is you will find a solution. Okay, so you won't have any of these no solutions or infinite solutions. You'll find a solution. Okay. Sometimes we have to make sure they're reasonable solutions in case we made some kind of crazy mistake. But I'm going to try to give you several examples of these so that when you do your homework, you can kind of translate that into your homework problems. So, okay. So the first one comes from looking at a problem where we've got two different types of condominium units. So Lilly and Associates is a real estate developer, They recently built 200 condominiums in Starkville. I mean, that's kind of what happens on a daily basis out here. I swear they're building them on a daily basis. These condos were either 2-bedroom units or 3-bedroom units. Unfortunately, the contractor was not very smart and didn't know how many they built. Okay? So all we know is the total number of bedrooms in the entire complex is 507 because they needed to order like beds for these. So that's how many bedrooms you're going to have. How many 2-bedroom units and how many 3-bedroom units were built because they forgot to figure this out. So here's what we need to do. Just like when we solved problems before, we need to identify our variables. So we're going to have 2 variables in these problems. So I'm going to let X be the number of 2-bedroom units. Okay. And I'm going to let Y be the number of 3-bedroom units. Okay, so I have 2 different types of bedrooms. All right, now I know a couple of different things. Oh, not bedrooms, not beds. Sorry, I know a couple of different things about. Yes, that's right. So I know a couple of things in here about what I've got going on. I know that the real estate developer built 200 condos. Okay, so 200 units. So that means that X plus Y is equal to 200. So there's X of these and there's Y of these. The other thing I know is something about the number of bedrooms, okay? And I know that every 2-bedroom unit, so let's think about this for just a second if you don't already have your equation. If I have 5 2-bedroom units, that's a total of 10 bedrooms, right? Because I had 2 times 5. If I had 5 3-bedroom units, that would be a total of 15 bedrooms because I have 3 times the number of units. Okay? So that means that I have 2x bedrooms for the 2-bedroom units plus 3y for the 3-bedroom units. And this is a total of 507 because that's the total number of bedrooms that I have. Okay? So far, so good. Question? All right, so here's what we're going to do. You can either solve this by substitution or you can solve this by elimination, but you are going to solve this. So I want everybody to figure out and send it to me in a message when you get it. And if you absolutely have no idea how to get started, you can tell me that and I will send you back a message to tell you how to get started, okay? But again, you can either solve it by substitution or elimination. And we're going to have 2 blanks. We're going to have, so start working. And you can list your answers in these orders. So the first answer you give me would be the 2-bedroom units, and the second answer would be the number of 3-bedroom units. So you can just list them to me like that. Y'all are fun and Malachi coming up. So. Most people do find they have a preference for one version or the other. So. I think I've answered everybody who's submitted an answer. Still looking to hear from a couple of folks. So kind of just FYI, if you're not answering me, you are not present. So because you got to at least give me like, I have no idea kind of thing, or, you know, I'm just like hanging out here totally lost, or, you know, something along those lines. I need to know that some of y'all are alive. So are we going to be like sending out a 911 call? Because I'm thinking some of y'all have just turned into pumpkins, or I don't know, something. Yeah. Making sure I know what's happening. Some of y'all are starting to like some of these. No, they're not so bad. I like I'm Still Working. Those are my favorites. I know some of y'all are still working. So. A couple of you, I made some suggestions too, so I'm going to kind of make some general suggestions right now. I'm still waiting to hear from a couple of people. I would like to know that you are alive. One suggestion I made, and I know several of y'all like substitution, but if you don't have a preference, you can multiply the first equation by negative 2x, by negative 2, and then allow you to add the two equations together. And if you're really struggling trying to kind of get started with this, that's usually a pretty nice way to get started. So, and that will give you your y value. Okay. So, oh my goodness, I'm so proud of y'all. Yay, yay. A couple of folks that still got working on it. I know it's hard to let everybody else work. I know we're getting there. I would usually make y'all turn to each other and help each other out. So, but I guess you could do that. I don't know. You can probably figure this out better than I can. All right. So kind of with this in mind, if I do it this way, then this is going to give me a y is equal to, and when I add these two together, I'm going to get 107. And y is the number of 3-bedroom units. To get the number of 2-bedroom units, I can substitute back in here, or I can say x plus 107 is 200, or I could have simply just subtracted 107 from 200 to get 93. So 93 two-bedroom units, 107 three-bedroom units. Yay! I think almost everybody got that exactly correct. And some of you I know are still working, so hang in there. Keep working. Okay. All right. Questions about how you got to this point, or how I got to this point. If you didn't got to this point.
For to find the x value, you basically just take whatever the y value is and plug that into the equation.
Yep, that is it.
Okay.
And you can choose either equation you want to. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. All right. So, on a certain hot summer day, there were 492 people in the swimming pool. That is a big swimming pool. They were obviously not practicing socially distancing things, so this was obviously a long time ago. The daily prices were $1.50 for children and $2.50 for adults. Okay, that was really a long time ago, because I think it costs way more than that now to go to a pool. So the receipts for the admissions totaled $929. How many children and adults were at the pool on that day? So what do we have? We have two different kinds of people. We have children, we have adults. Okay. Some people obviously dropped their children off and said, I'm out of here. So children and adults. It does not matter which one you let be X, which one you let be Y. Some of you guys are super creative and you're going to use C and A. That's amazing. Okay. X's and Y's are great also. So I've got two different types of numbers here. I've got numbers, and then I've got money numbers. Okay. So my numbers go together. So X is the number of children, Y is the number of adults. So that means that X plus Y is the total number of people, okay? And then I'm going to put money together with these. So for the money numbers, I'm going to have $1.50 per child. I can drop the zero at the end. It's not significant. It's not causing any problems. I'm paying $2.50 per adult. And this is a total of $929. And I don't have to put the decimal and the zero after that. You can if you want to, okay? So in this problem, if you don't like the decimals over here, you can move the decimal and everything, move it one place. You have to add a zero onto this one. You get a calculator, so I don't usually worry so much about the decimals. This one is probably a really nice one to do with substitution. So if you were kind of struggling and on the fence there of substitution, addition, I would probably tell you to go with substitution on this one. Some of you guys have already figured this out because I got some messages. It's like, okay, I picked one now. So yeah, when I first asked you, you're like, yeah, I don't care. No, I got one. I got a favorite now, so it's okay. All right, so I'm going to use substitution on this one. I'm going to take this first equation and I'm going to solve it for y. It does not matter which equation, which variable you solve it for. I'm just picking y because I have no good reason. And so now my second equation is going to become 1.5x plus 2.5 times y, but I'm going to drop in this 492 minus x in place of y. And then this is equal to 929. And so now as I multiply this through and simplify it, I have 1.5x plus, I told y'all 2 weeks ago, I don't like decimals, so we're going to pull out the handy dandy calculator to multiply this. 1,230 minus 2.5x is equal to 929. So far, so good. Simplifying 1.5 minus 2.5 is negative 1x plus 1230 is equal to 929. If you don't get a negative when then we're gonna have an issue, but so I do, so I get a negative x is equal to negative 301. If both sides of this are not negative, we've got a problem, because I'm going to tell you what, as much as some people have negative attitudes, there are not negative numbers of people, okay? So positive x is equal to positive 301. Okay? So there are 301 children in the pool. There need to be more grown-ups. It's okay. How do I figure out the number of adults? Somebody help me out. You can either tell me, but if you tell me, you got to be prepared to tell me how you got that. You can type it to me. Yes, excellent, very good. I've got lots of great ideas. I've got an answer, and I've got the how to get the answer, and they came from different places. But yes, y'all are getting this. You're getting it. You're getting it. Check your subtraction. That's 301. Okay, so to get the number of adults, which is y, I can use y equals 492 minus 301. And that's going to give me 191. Okay, so 191 adults. I can put it into here, x plus y is equal to 492, x being 301 plus y is equal to 492, or I can just substitute it here. It doesn't matter which one. Okay. Either way is going to get me the 191. 191. Questions. All right. So we have an interest problem. And this is actually a simple interest problem. So this is not going back to those exponential equations that we had to use. This is going back to just simple interest. Robert invested a total of $5,900 in two separate banks. One bank pays simple interest at a rate of 12% per year, and the other pays simple interest at a rate of 7% per year. If Robert earns $568 in interest during a single year, how much did he have on deposit at each bank? I'm pretty sure we did some of these at the beginning, and I'm pretty sure that I set it up with the box. And so if I didn't, I'm going to set it up with the box for these, and we're going to work these just like you've never seen these before. So we have the amount invested at 12%. So this is going to be the amount at 12%. And then we're going to have an amount at our other percent, which is 7%. And then we're going to have some totals going on here. Now, if you recall, simple interest is equal to principal times rate times time. But this is a single year. And so this means that time is equal to 1. Okay? So I'm going to remind you, we're going to have a principal. We're going to have a principal. We're going to have a rate. And this is going to be the product of interest is equal to principal times rate. And this is how we're going to set this up. So what I know is a total amount. I know that Robert invested a total amount of $5,900. Okay. What I don't know is how much he invested at each amount. Now, when we did these before, we had to do some kind of fancy footwork. Here, I actually like solving these with a system of equations better than any other way to do this. So here I'm going to let X be the amount at 12% and Y is the amount at 7%. Okay, nice. it's in the box, and so I didn't have to write that down separately. You can, but I didn't because it's in the box. So it's X is in the box with 12%, Y is in the box with 7%. My percents, this is an interest rate of 12% and 7%. There is no total interest rate. So for my last column, I'm going to have 12X, I'm going to have 7Y, and here I'm going to have this amount right here because that is my total amount of interest. Okay. My first equation is going to come from my first column. So this is going to give me my first equation, right? So my first equation is going to be X plus Y is equal to 5,900. Okay. My second equation is going to come from the last column. And my second equation, therefore, is going to be 12X plus 7Y is equal to 568. And those are my two equations. And now I just have to solve my system of equations. Okay. So I'm going to give y'all a couple of minutes and let you try to solve this system of equations. You can either solve it by substitution, solving the first equation for either X or Y and substituting it in. If you liked elimination a while ago, I suggest you multiply the first equation by -12. Okay, so that should get everybody started. And then you can give it to me in the order of whatever you get for X can be first and then Y can be second, or you can identify them when you send me the answers. So let's see what y'all can do. Oh, you know what? I messed this up. Sorry. Hang on. No. We got to have some decimals in here. Sorry. That's my bad. So totally my bad. Y'all, nobody caught that? Like these need to be decimals. Don't forget your decimals on your interest rates. There's a 7 zero in there. I'm so disappointed that nobody caught that. Y'all gotta watch me better. Sometimes I do the craziest things. We're gonna have some really funky numbers there. Sometimes y'all just gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. I worry about you. Hello, first answer. Yes, it should be big numbers. I think they're big numbers. They shouldn't be bigger. Your answer should not be larger than 5,900 because the total of the two amounts has to be 5,900. But you should have pretty good sized numbers here. I wish I could like see your work. That's what bothers me. Is I can't see your work. You know, you can share what you're doing with me. If I knew which way most of you solved it, I would like to get it started. I know this one's got decimals in it, which makes it a little bit harder. Right. So I'm gonna help some of y'all out just a little bit because I've gotten several really good answers and I got a couple of people who are really bad stuck. So let's try to get unstuck. So in this first one, in this first one, I am going to solve this first equation for y, and I am going to use substitution. So for this first equation, I'm going to rewrite this as y is equal to 5,900 minus x. The second equation then is going to be 0.12x plus 0.07 times that 5,900 minus x. And this is all going to be equal to 568. Okay. Yes, I'm getting really good answers in here. Yes, so y'all are doing great. So keep working if you'd like to. So this is going to be 0.12x plus, when I multiply this through here, hang on, I didn't write that number down, sorry. Is going to give me 413, and then minus 0.07x is 568. When I collect these two together, that's going to give me 0.05x. And then when I subtract 413 from both sides, that's going to give me 155. And then if you divide both sides by 0.05, you get that x is equal to 3,100. And I mean, and that's absolutely spot on, okay? So 3,100 is invested at 12% because that's where my x went, okay? To find y, I would go right back up here to this first equation. So I would say y is equal to 5,900 minus that 3,100 to get that y, which is the amount invested at 7%, is 2,800. And so 2,800 then was invested at 7%. Questions? Questions? All right. So this next one is a mixture problem, and we worked the mixture problems I know before, and so this one's going to be using a system of equations. And so for the most part, almost every mixture problem we did before, if you like this method of systems of equations, you can actually go back and use this for the problems in section 1.2 also, for both types of equations. So I'm going to do this one with the containers, just like I did before. So Mike, who owns Mike's Nut Shop, sells peanuts for $3.25 per pound, cashews for $6 per pound, and Mike wants to create a 58.5-pound barrel of mixed nuts and sell that mixture for $4 per pound. So here is my mixture for $4 per pound. How many pounds of each should you use? So we can talk about X being the pounds of peanuts and Y being the pounds of cashews, right? And we can have our containers where, if you remember, we put the amount on the bottom and then the price or percent, if you happen to be working with that kind of mixture problem. But your price goes on the top and your amount goes on the bottom. So for my price, so here's going to be $3.25 for a pound of peanuts and X peanuts, okay? And then it's going to be $6 per pound for Y pounds of cashews. And then I have a total of $4 per pound for my mixture, but I know the amount of my mixture is 58.5. So I just have to be careful and make sure that whatever amount I'm given, it's going to go in one of these containers, okay? If I know the total amount, I can do an X and a Y here, and it makes it really nice. So then my first equation is going to come from the bottom of my containers. And so my first equation is simply going to be an X plus a Y is equal to 58.5. My second equation is going to come from that product, that top times that bottom. So 3.25x plus, and then I'm going to have 6 times y is equal, and then I'm going to have to multiply 4 times 58.5, okay? So I'm actually going to leave that there so you can see this, okay? I would probably solve this by substitution, and so I would solve it by substitution by telling you y is equal to 58.5 minus x. And in the second equation, I'm going to clean this one up just a little bit. So I have 3.25x plus 6 times, and I'll drop this in as 58.5 minus x is my y value, is equal to, and I do have to go ahead and multiply that together. So 58.5 times 4 is going to give me 234. Okay. And so now I'm just going to clean this up and solve this. So, but it's like I said, it's very similar to the ones we did before. We're just using now a system of equations to solve this. So I have 3.25x plus multiplying that 6 through there. So 58.5 times 6 is going to give me 351 minus 6x is equal to 234. If you need to pull your calculator out to do 3.25 minus 6, that's fine. It's going to be negative 2.75x plus 351 is equal to 234. Subtracting 351 from both sides, I get, and that's good because otherwise I'm going to end up with a negative weird answer here. So I'm going to get a negative 117. I'm going to divide both sides by that negative 2.75, and I'm going to get a decimal, and that's okay. Except that does not look like that is, never mind. Sorry, my calculator did some funky stuff, so. Okay, that's much better. And I'm going to get a positive 42 point, I am going to get a decimal. I would round it to one decimal place, so it's 0.54, and so I'm going to say 42.5. And so what happens is I have 42.5 pounds of peanuts. And in order to find the pounds for my cashews, I would substitute, I would say y is equal to 58.5 minus 42.5. And I would get 16 pounds. So 16 pounds of cashews. Questions? All right. One more. And this is the pizza problem. See, I told you we talk about pizzas and drinks. Okay. So we know the total cost of 5 slices of pizza and 2 drinks is $16. We also know the total cost of 6 slices of pizza and 3 drinks is $20.25. We need to know what the cost for 1 slice of pizza is because it wasn't on the menu. So sorry. Okay. So we have 2 variables. We have X that we can call the cost of pizza, and Y is going to be the cost of a drink. Okay. So X is the cost of a slice of pizza and Y is the cost of a drink. We have 2 sentences here, and we can write 2 equations for those 2 sentences. The first sentence is 5 slices of pizza and 2 drinks is $16. So the first equation is going to be 5 pizzas plus 2 drinks is $16. 5x plus 2y is equal to 16. The second sentence is going to give me my second equation. 6 slices of pizza, 3 drinks is $20.25. So 6 slices of pizza plus 3 drinks is $20.25. Okay. I would highly recommend elimination for this. So yes, I'm glad. I can't type. Okay, so I'm going to use elimination for this. I'm going to multiply my first equation by a -6, and I'm doing this one for this reason because I want you to see this is always an option. Okay, I can multiply this one by a -6 and this second one by a +5. And the reason I'm doing this is I'm simply taking my first number here and taking it down here, and the first number here and taking it up here, making sure one's positive and one's negative. Now, the downside to this is it's going to eliminate my x's, which is actually what I'm trying to solve for. But that's okay. You can do the eliminate of the y's and it's okay. But we're gonna work through this because this is typically what most students do when they solve this. And if you're solving it a different way, then that's amazing. And I'm so excited. So this is going to be negative 30x minus 12y is equal to negative 96. And my second equation is going to be 30x plus 15y is equal to, oh, numbers I can't multiply. So 20 and 25 times 5. 101.25. And I'm going to add my two equations together. And when I do that, I get rid of my x's. I get 3y is equal to 525. And then if I divide both sides by 3, I get that y is equal to $1.75. Now remember, y was the cost of my drinks. So the drink costs $1.75. That does not answer my question, right? So I have to substitute this back into one of my two equations to solve for x, okay? So I still need to find x. So I'm going to go back to 5x plus 2 times, and here's where I substitute in the y value. So I know y is 1.75. And this is equal to 16. Okay. And so I have 5x plus 3.5 or 3.50 is equal to 16. Okay. And I'm going to subtract that from both sides. And so I have 5x is equal to 12.5. And I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And I get that x is 2.5, which means that the pizza costs $2.50 per slice. Okay? And that's ultimately what we were looking for. Now, if you can really pay attention and you're really kind of getting what we're doing here, you could have eliminated the y's and solved for x's, and then you would have had your answer. Either way is okay. Questions? We're done with college algebra. You almost made it. We're there. We're in the home stretch. I'm so excited for you. No, I'm not excited. I want to keep going. We can go next week and the next week, and we just keep going forever now. Infinitely length of time. Hi, guys. If you are totally exhausted or whatever, if you don't have any questions for me, go work on your homework. I know homework and quiz 9 are due tonight. If you haven't done those, get those done. Homework and quiz 10, which is this material, is due tomorrow night. Tomorrow we're going to be reviewing for your final exam, answering last minute questions, all of that good stuff. We are almost done. It's crazy. So if you've got questions, stick around and talk to me. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Homework 9 and 10 are on Canvas.
What do you mean?
Like, they're not on the assignments.
Oh, why not? That's crazy. Okay, go into, I'll try to fix that. If you go into my lab's math, if you go into the Pearson site, they'll be there. So
I found homework 9, 10 quiz, but homework 9 quiz, but I couldn't find homework 10 quiz.
Oh, the quiz didn't open until today.
Okay.
Yeah, no, quiz 10 didn't open until today. Sorry about that. Yeah, but the link is not in the Canvas site. I'll go fix that in just a minute. I'm having trouble syncing those two things a little bit. So, but it's definitely in the My Labs math place. So, okay.
All right.
Excellent.
you.
Thanks, Carfay.